Welcome back to Man vs. Meeple, the show where we talk about all things board game related. Today we're going to bring to you guys the top 15 most anticipated games that we've talked about for Origins 2017.
Yeah.
David and I, along with Gary.
Hello.
And Ryan.
Hey.
New to the show, Ryan.
Yeah, welcome, Ryan.
Happy to be here.
Typically, the way we've done it is we've all come up with our own individual lists.
But that would be enormous.
It would be, and it would take a lot of time.
Yeah.
We want to get you guys in and out. So what we did is we all submitted out of a giant list that was from BGG, from Eric Martin. We all rated them on what we felt were our favorites, and then we put them into an algorithm and came out with a top 15.
Yeah, we tried to come up with the top 10, but we just couldn't quite do it. So you're lucky you're not getting a top 60. So it's top 15.
And we're going to spend just a little bit of time on each of them. All right?
Sounds good.
You guys ready for this?
Sounds good.
Already.
What's number 15? Let's start with 15.
Let's start with number 15. This one's called Lignum. It's from Capstone Games. This one's actually been out in Europe for a couple years now. It is a 2 to 4 player game about 19th century lumber milling, right? I mean,
you got Haspel with coal. We're gonna move over to lumber.
Yeah, these guys have been bringing a lot of like heavier Euro style games.
Oh, yeah.
This is about midweight for them. When you
Not
have
super heavy.
Three Kingdoms Redux, and then you have Hashbolt Neck, and this is kind of between the two.
Yeah.
It's a worker placement game, and you're going to be going out there, clearing area for your forests, and then building sawmills and upgrading your equipment, trying to survive the winter, and just repeating that over and over.
Yeah, if you're a fan of heavyweight Euros, then you think they're never going to come out over here. You can count on Clay at Capstone.
Yeah.
To potentially bring them over, because those are definitely in his wheelhouse for sure.
That's right, and it's kind of on our wheelhouse too. All of us like worker placement style games here, and a little bit on the heavier side.
And there's some engine building with this one too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Definitely a Euro.
Definitely
For
a
sure.
Euro. Lumber milling, of course.
Number 14, shifting gears big time.
Yeah, this one is from Cryptozoic. It's Attack on Titan, The Last Stand. Now, these are two really, really popular designers. Antoine Balza, which is one of them, and everyone should know what he's designed. But also you have Ludwig Mablanc, and he's done Cash and Guns, Conan, Cyclades, and Mr. Jack. Maybe not as well known by name, but by game he's very well known.
Absolutely.
So this one is a vertical game board.
And it's one versus many, right?
It's one versus many, and you're going to have one player play as the Titan who's trying to destroy the other players, and then you have all the other players who are rolling dice and trying to give the killing blow to the Titan itself. Now, you've played this one, right?
I did. I got to play it last year at Gen Con.
What'd you think about it?
I liked it. It was really thematic. I mean, if you've seen the show, I mean, it really brought that element. You know, you're swinging around the Titan, trying to get up basically from its feet up to its head to get that killing blow. You know, they got like a weak spot in the back of the neck, and you got to get up there. And there's hand management, you know, to it.
Yeah.
So you have to play the cards in the correct order that you want to move around the board.
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
Aren't you trying? You're fulfilling certain very specific objectives to get to certain points, right?
Yeah.
Who's seen the anime?
I've seen
I
it.
have not.
I've seen it all. It's very unique, and it's also very popular. What I'm interested in is seeing Antoine Bauza do a game on a licensed property. That's not generally his thing, right? It's just an interesting combination. Whenever I hear of a licensed game, I'm always a little bit leery, and then I heard Antoine Bauza doing it, and I got very interested in this one.
It's solid. It's difficult.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's difficult, but
it's a dice chucking game, though, isn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah, there's dice. You're using the dice to fulfill those things that I was talking about. And when you roll them, some of the dice, when you're on the many side, some of the dice you roll, if they roll certain sides, the Titan gets to take those and collect them as resources that then they can use to sort of foil your plans.
Number 13. This one we actually
just played
right now, and it's called Frog Riders by Stronghold Games. It is a 2 to 4 player game. It takes about 30 minutes to play, not long. It's a tactical set collection style game in which you are
hopping frogs. There's an old game I used to play when I was a kid called Haikyuu. And if you've ever played that little triangular game at like a Cracker Barrel,
that's exactly
that's what you're doing. You're hopping things over and taking them. But the cool thing is, obviously, and we all just played this, so we can all speak to it. But the frogs that you're taking off of different colors have different powers when you hand them in.
It kind of gives me that Five Tribes feeling just a little bit by turning those colored frogs in to get a special ability.
I mean, totally different game, but yes, it has that vibe. I also think, I mean, did you say it was abstract? Because I feel it's at its heart, it's an abstract game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's got some really interesting layers to it to make it a little bit more gamey, if you will.
This will be a great family game, too.
Absolutely.
I mean, I could teach my 8-year-old and my 5-year-old this. The beginning, just kind of movements and teach them then the set collection is super easy. There's no reading. It's just hopping around. It's fun.
Absolutely one of those games where anyone could play it.
Yep.
But maybe not well.
Right.
It's simply hopping frogs, and your kids who's collecting frogs, they might not score the most points in the end, but
they're going to have fun.
Yeah. The cards, too, help because it's not just, the game's not limited to just jumping standard jumps. Some of those cards allow you to slide and jump, or jump diagonally, or L-shaped jumps, so it really mixes things up. And you also find yourself, like I did, when I didn't have any of those cards and I saw you guys using those powers to do all sorts of moves. It's an interesting game, for sure.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
Number 12, I'm going to let you talk about this.
Barren Park. I don't know too much about it. I watched a video on it. I read a little bit about it, and I think this is just barely. I mean, the information on this has just barely become available.
I think it's actually for sale now.
I do think you can find it out there, but I think it's kind of sort of quote unquote official launches at Origins.
Sure.
You're building kind of not a bear theme park, but kind of like a national park with bears involved.
Park.
It's very it's very puzzle oriented. So you're going to start with sort of a little tile that represents your park, and then you're going to add tiles that sort of expand the park. But then kind of almost like patchworky, you're collecting tiles and piecing them in these areas, and when you cover certain elements up, you're able to gain things, but you need to fill in the areas well. You can't leave a lot of empty space.
Right, you're trying to maximize your real estate.
And I don't think you can, maybe you can't expand the park. There's certain things you can't do until you've filled in a full park area.
That's the way I understand it as well.
It definitely has a patchwork vibe to it.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't the biggest fan of patchwork, but this thing looked like there was a little bit more game to it in my opinion.
Yeah, it's got layers on top of the basic patchwork mechanic.
Yeah, and theme too. Bears in Park.
The theme is interesting, and the artwork and it's this Mayfair sort of style presentation is really appealing to me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, number 11. This one's called Fields of Green. We actually played this one this morning as well.
Yeah, and this one came out last Essen, right, over in Europe.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, we saw it
at Kickstarter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, I didn't know that. It was at BGG-Con was the first time I actually saw it in person.
Okay.
And didn't get a copy of it, but yeah, we played it today, and it was a lot of fun. This is
cool.
My type of game for sure. Have you guys read much about it?
It looks great. And I've played Among the Stars, which is kind of based on that, right? I mean, it's
very
an adaptation of that. Engine.
It's a hand management engine building game in which you're creating a farm in front of you using 4 different types of things. You have fields and livestock and construction pieces, and then you have buildings, all of them giving you unique abilities after each of the 4 years, which you have to harvest and keep in working condition in order to utilize them within the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's like, again, I've never played Among the Stars, but to me, when I got the feeling, it's like a game where you're collecting cards and building engines out of those cards, but on top of that, you're puzzling those cards together. It's not you don't just simply have them in front of you. You kind of have to piece them together just right so they work.
Yeah,
which is a really interesting because you can work yourself into a bit of a corner.
The other part I liked about this too is it's got card drafting. It plays a little bit different for 2 players, but in a 4-player game, you're taking those cards, using one of them for one of 5 different actions, and then you're passing them. So you're never quite sure what you're going to draft into your farm or how you're going to use it.
I was kicking myself for not backing this one.
It was neat. We liked it.
It was very good.
Number 10. This is a mouthful, so give me a second as I pronounce all of it. It's called Citadel Confluence, trading and negotiation in the Elysian Quadrant.
Wow.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah. Turbo Deluxe Edition.
Wow. This is 4 to 9 players, 2 to 3 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is kind of cool. I'll let you talk about it because this is really high up on your list.
Yeah, I saw it and then I was able to read the rules and there's all these negotiation games. You get into negotiation games, you're probably gonna be in a long time. This one even says in the rules, it's probably good to put a 10-minute timer on some of this because there's going to be 6 rounds, but they can get, if you get 4 to 9 players, there's going to be a lot of negotiation. But basically, you are alien races, each with their own certain powers, but you are not self-sufficient. You need everybody else. You need their resources. So there's 3 quick rounds. You do the first round is just trading. I need some of your resources. I give you some of my resources. And all negotiation is binding. You can't screw somebody later on because it's cooperative. You're trying to help each other to build a nice universe.
Okay.
Then everybody runs their economies after you've done all the negotiation. You build your more resources, you're building your colonies, ships and stuff, and then any technology can go out on a board and people then can bid on the technology you discover because they might need it later that they just don't have the resources to do.
Really cool.
And you just keep going. It's all about victory points. You just keep going around 6 rounds. And I tell you, for a bidding game and a negotiation game, it doesn't take that.
Yeah.
It sounds really cool. You're all trying to get the max points. You're trying to help each other get that, but it's still competitive.
It sounded really unique when I read about it by each of the players having their own unique set of cards. And in those cards, they had things that they were really good about exporting to other places. But the things they needed to build, they didn't have the imports or the ability to develop those things.
Right.
So you have to negotiate in order to build up your civilization. The other cool thing, as I read about, is that the entire game is played simultaneously. So there's no turns. Everyone's doing everything at the exact same time. So everyone's constantly engaged.
Wow.
Anything you have in front of you, you can use to negotiate.
Well, one other quick thing is if you make a deal, if I make a deal with you and later on I can't fulfill it, I get penalized through other resources.
Oh,
nice.
So if you're going to make a deal, you need to fulfill it. It's really kind of neat take on that.
Interesting.
I haven't seen that in another
game. We should play this
game.
one at Origins.
Definitely.
Try to get a group to play it. But I fear that it's going to be
Sounds
like
like it might
hours.
take. Yeah, I know. It sounds I don't know that we have 4 hours at Origins.
All right, number 9. This one is called Professor Evil and the Citadel. Time is a 2 to 4 player, 30 to 40 minute game. Now, I've talked to Scott Morris at Passport, and he said it's kind of a mixture of Scooby-Doo and Forbidden Island and Forbidden Desert, where you're going into the Citadel of this mad professor who's stolen 4 artifacts from the past and the future, and he's hidden them within a citadel. He's going to be roaming around, closing doors behind him, locking things down while you're trying to unlock them and find the keys to open these things and get out in a specific amount of time.
And setting traps, too. He leaves traps behind him as he moves around.
Cool. I like the idea of this. I'm not a huge co-op. It's a co-op, I take it then.
It's a co-op, yeah.
So it looks beautiful. We don't have a lot of images right here on the TV, but I'm sure we'll be sending some up. The artwork is fantastic. So if it's got sort of Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert vibe, and that artwork and that theme,
and in 30 minutes, which is fantastic.
That sounds
awesome.
That sounds awesome.
I love quick co-ops.
All right, we're back into heavy games. This one's Hashbolt.net, the Ruhr Valley, and it's the first expansion. You love Hashbolt.net.
I do. I'm a big fan of it. So does Ryan.
I love it.
Do you guys really?
I really do. I mean, the theme was not appealing to me at all, and I put it off for a long time. Yeah, I'm glad I picked it up. And
the theme is one that doesn't sound very exciting at first.
If it ever was a Euro, this is a Euro.
Right? Exactly. What I liked about this is when I've taught it to people, the theme is very sort of digestible as you're explaining it because of the
tunneling,
physicality of what you're doing. You're literally moving your coal over to the base of the mine and then pulling it up and then using it for different things. Ruhr Valley, I haven't read anything about.
I got some information. It's got 2 new modules in it. One of them is called the Black Developments, which adds a 5th color of developments. And then Module 2 is Iron.
Yeah, Iron's the big part, I think.
Enhance the tunnels, but it also adds a 5th round within the game, which makes the game about another 30 to 45 minutes in length.
Well, what I've heard from people that have been playing this is that this is one of those expansions where once you've played it, you're never going to want to play the game
Those
without
are the best expansions out there. Yeah.
I can't imagine.
It feels integral to the game once you've got it.
Yeah. Number 7. This is a game that I don't know much about. Actually, Gary, you told me about this one. It's called Whistlestop by Bezier Games.
Yeah,
beautiful looking too.
Yeah, it is.
Popped up. I don't think it's another one. They say it's simple to play, but has a lot of depth. Easy to teach, easy to learn. It's tile placement. And you're just moving your your train along your railroads, pick up and delivering things at certain stops.
Okay.
And you can take victory points. It seems like as the game goes on, or you can save them all up.
So I said there's kind of a new twist on the pick up and deliver portion
of
the game.
Or you can save it, and at the end game, just get a massive amount of points if you're able to do that. But the way you run your rails, by the way you place your tiles, you could block people, so you got to be kind of judicious. And
interesting.
It's fun enough where you're not really you're not upset. You got blocked. You're just like, I should have went when I
to ride.
Yeah, I should have went when I had the chance. So it looked really cool, and the artwork's gorgeous.
Yeah, the way I understand too is that the name Whistlestop comes from the special moves that you can get from the tiles themselves. For trading them in for shares, you get stuff now, or you save them to use them for the abilities.
Very cool.
They're like whistles. That I don't think there's a physical whistle.
But that'd be awful.
One of the things you can do in the game.
I didn't know everybody would have.
You can blow the whistle thematically, and it triggers like a special ability for you.
Maybe they do need a whistle.
They do. That would be the deluxe
First
version.
player marker.
Lord. All right, number 6. This one's called The Palace of Mad King Ludwig, another game from Bezier Games.
Yeah.
This is 2 to 4 players. It is another tile placement game in the same line, but it does things a little bit differently. I'll talk about that. You guys know anything about that?
Oh yeah, I've been following it really close.
I've never even played the original.
Oh, you haven't played the original?
Not once.
I love the original. The problem with the original, I think, is that you kind of have to pay attention to what everybody's doing.
Absolutely.
In this one, you're working together to build a palace.
Okay.
And all that matters is that you've contributed more to the palace than anyone else around you.
Okay.
And it still does a lot of the same things. You're still looking for certain rooms and placing, certain paths for bonuses. Mm-hmm. What's really cool about it is as you're building this, you're actually you're building a moat around the outside of the palace.
Yeah.
It's your timer.
Yeah, and that's your timer. And when that moat is complete, the game is over.
That kind of gives it. I know this has nothing to do with this other game I'm about to mention, Ethnos, but it kind of gives the players that pressure, and then I see this is about to end. I need to start doing the things I needed to do throughout the course of the game.
That's a great aspect too. There's a lot of games that don't have that, so it would be really cool to see some games that don't usually have that intensity added.
Yeah, because you get to a point where maybe you only need one tile. And the player that's in the lead, you don't want him to end it, because you want to get caught up. So you're trying to do everything you can to keep that moat tile out of their hands.
So one other thing they took out of the original is there's no more auction.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. We'll see how that plays out. Yeah. That's kind of a big part of the first game.
So do either of you know how you acquire the tiles in this one?
I haven't seen the rulebook yet.
All I read, there's something to do with their swans that are used as some sort of a resource or currency.
Resource, right?
Yeah, and that's how you can get your rooms.
Okay. Interesting. That kind of appeals to me.
Yeah.
An auction element's not always my favorite mechanic in most games.
It works pretty well in castles.
The original.
Yeah, but again, any kind of auction game that you play typically requires the players to play it multiple times and understand what the true economy is of the game.
Exactly.
So. All right, 5. Ryan, this is your number 1. I'm gonna dial this back over to you. It's called The Networks Executives. It's 1 to 5 players. This is just going to be in a demo format, and I don't even think they have the box art done. I don't even think some of the artwork is done for it. It's pretty much conceptual, maybe 3/4 of the way done.
He's still working some things out. The Networks was one of my favorite games. I mean, I love it. I mean, I love television to begin with. And so, I get all the inside jokes in the Networks. So there's a lot of inside jokes, and there's even more in the expansion. So what's cool about this is it takes everything I love about the Networks, but it adds variable player powers.
Yeah.
It adds drafting, which is cool. Instead of starting with some generic TV shows, everybody gets to draft a couple
That's appealing.
TV shows, and then you start with those.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. And the special abilities are really neat as well.
Yeah, we got to play an early...
Last year at Gen Con, we played a round of the demo, and the variable powers were the thing I remember the most. Not only are they variable powers, but they also have strengths, which most of them should have, but they also have weaknesses that they're bad at as well. And that's where the thematic fun came in, because I can't remember who I had, but it made... someone was like the PBS type station, and of course the way they worked mechanically made a lot of sense for a nonprofit
I played it with Gil back in November, and my company's power was to embezzle money back from the company, and if I got caught embezzling, I would lose all the money I had embezzled. So it added like a whole different aspect to playing the game.
It was complete. I can't remember the one I used, but I remember that mine was the only one that used a rondelle. I had a rondelle in front of me that I had to basically... I was a slave to this rondelle in terms of what I could do on any given turn.
It's really cool the way it changes up the gameplay.
Yeah, it's cool.
This was my number 1. This is called Hunt for the Ring. It's from the designers of War of the Ring and Letters from Whitechapel. I mean, hello, right?
Yeah. Beautiful marriage.
This sounds really cool. It is a 1 versus many game. One of the players is going to be playing Frodo and the Companions. Now, it's 2 games into 1 with 2 different boards you're going to be playing on. Phase 1 is for Frodo to get to Bree without any corruption, all right? Then players can quit the game. This is a long game. It's going to be an hour and a half to 3 hours to get through.
Depending on if you play both phases.
Of them, yes. Right. Or they can pack up, write their statistics then, or they can go ahead and keep working, and then they have to get from Bree to Rivendell, with the second phase of the game being completely different gameplay than the first phase.
From what I understand, it's on a completely different board.
Yeah, it is.
2 game boards.
Yes,
It's super thematic. I could just imagine, sitting outside a whole night for this.
Yeah.
Get your Howard Shore soundtrack playing in the background, and get everybody gathered and just,
Concerning hobbits.
That's pretty
just have a Lord of the Rings night.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this. I love deduction games. I love Dracula, Fury of Dracula, Love Letters from Whitechapel. I love War of the Ring.
We'll try
I love
for
Lord of
sure.
the Rings. So definitely my wheelhouse. And unfortunately, this is just a demo that's going to be there. I think it's coming out at Gen Con. Number 3. I think we've all played. Maybe
I have not played this one yet.
Oh,
I've played the other Orleans expansion.
This is
but
one
not
of your favorite games of all time.
I know, but I
Orleans.
haven't gotten this.
This one is Trade and Intrigue. It's the second expansion to Orleans, and by far the better of the expansions.
Oh,
of
yeah.
the 2. You played this one
Multiple
Why don't you
times
talk
now.
about
I
this?
love this expansion. We were just talking about, like the Hospital Neck. Like you would never play that now without Ruhr Valley.
Yeah.
You won't play Orleans without this.
Is it a modular one or no?
No, what it is it adds a couple more beneficial deeds boards, which a lot, some people had complaints about because you don't have to use those. These new beneficial deeds boards, especially on the trade trade game. There's a trade and then there's the intrigue, which is a lot of take that.
And use both?
Well, no, you just use one or the other, whichever game you want to use. Yeah. But the trade one, you get little benefits for putting your guys out on the beneficial deeds.
which was needed.
Which was super
Big time,
needed,
yeah.
and it really forces you to actually go after other different tokens that you may not have bought earlier. Like in the original game, you just don't see a lot of people going for the fishermen, the blue ones.
No, never.
On this one, you really want to go for it.
Interesting.
Opens it up. They've also added some mission cards that it's a little more random, kind of luck driven. You don't necessarily have to play with it, but it's still cool. Cards come out. If you're in the city, it'll say, hey, you're in this city. If you get this many resources out of your pool, you get like 15 victory points.
So basically some things to direct you around that map. I got to get to this city.
Absolutely.
I've got to dump these 2 resources and get this.
Yep.
Yeah,
and the
cool.
best part is the event thing.
Yeah.
Now all the events are
18
different.
brand new events.
that's great.
Great.
No
Some are really
duplicates.
good, and some are like, oh, this is really going to hurt people.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
And I think people's mileage is going to vary on the intrigue portion. I know, for me personally, I like Orleans.
You'll
It's
love
a
this
solid
part.
game, but it is very much a solitary game. You're
Yep.
playing your own game.
That's why I like it, I think.
Yeah, it is. I think some people are going to play the intrigue and be like, no, that's not for me. That's not my style of game. However, I would gravitate towards that because it allows you to interact, and the game has right now no interaction in it for the most part, except blocking people.
No,
from
it
going
is
to
pretty much a
locations.
solitaire
really.
game to see who plays the best
There's a little bit of a
solitaire
race
game, for
mechanic
sure.
to it, but
Yeah.
But if you like this game, this is just a must buy. It is just
I'm
excited
it's a
for it.
really great expansion.
Interesting to see something that gets me to go in a different direction, because whenever I play that, it is very hard for me to get away from the same strategies that I've
the
used.
science
in the
track
past.
Change
every
it
time.
all.
I have a couple that I vary with, and both fail most of the times. But
Play with them more
Maybe it's,
often.
maybe it's time for a new strategy.
maybe.
All right, 2. Gary, I'm going to let you talk about this one. This one's called Summit, the board game, 1 to 6 players. It takes anywhere from an hour up to 3 hours. It is solo play, competitive play, or cooperative play.
Right. There's just a little bit out there on this. Basically, if you play the competitive, you are racing up a deadly mountain. I don't know, like Mount McKinley or something. That's what I feel I'm kind of getting. You're laying paths. You're trying to get things. But you can also screw people over. But if you play cooperatively, you're trying to all get up the mountain. But some of you may have to sacrifice yourself to get up the mountain. But there is a really
You mean
interesting...
there's cannibalism in the game?
Well, it was really funny. Evidently, there's a lot of cards. There's cards that are played that obviously assist with the gameplay. But there are parts where you can assist people, like give you some oxygen. So you can help them along. Or it says, or you can cut their rope and just lose some victory points, but it gets them out of the game.
Yeah,
Even in the cooperative game.
Yeah, it's like
you wouldn't
cliffhanger,
do that in the cooperative. I don't know that you use it in the cooperative
in the
game.
competitive game.
In the competitive game,
Yeah, not the
there's-
cooperative. The
They call them
competitive,
karma cards.
Interesting.
And you can gain these karma cards by helping out people that are running. There's like 5 resources you have to manage.
So
in the
you're
game.
risking your own victory points to help people, but gaining victory points from them, but possibly giving up some of your
Yeah,
abilities as
so
well.
it's kind of a,
Right.
and there's a penalty to cutting the rope.
Yeah.
But if you're neck and neck with somebody and cutting the rope might put you, right ahead.
Two things I wanted to mention about the game. One, there's 190 unique cards
I was going to say that.
which is fantastic.
Is that all?
It reminds me of Terraforming Mars.
That was the best thing about Terraforming
really unique
Mars.
cards. Number two, if you guys can't see this, the graphic design on this game is awesome. They've got this really unique, jagged art style to it.
Well, it's cool too. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember seeing artwork for this game online, and it looked like it had started in a different fashion, but at one point evolved to this, which I really find appealing. It's got a lot of style.
Well, what's cool about it, I don't know if you've seen the way that movement works, but it's a little bit of a tile placement game.
Yeah,
like you're building the mountain as you play,
up.
and it's almost like Suro, where you place a tile and it creates a path for you that you follow. And so you can send people off in weird random directions by placing your tiles correctly.
This is demo only?
Yeah. It is demo only. I believe it was kickstarted last year.
I think he said they're running demos all through Origins, so I think anybody that wants to try it is going to get a chance to try it.
We'll have to get a try.
Sleeper, who knows?
Yeah.
Well, the number one game that we have was actually the only game that all four of us put on our top 15 list.
Wow.
Yeah, all of us had other games on there. This one is called Caverna, Cave versus Cave. We all like Uwe Rosenberg games.
Absolutely.
This is a two-player only game. It can also be played solo if you so wish. Do you know much about this?
I do know from what he's done in the past with the Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, and Le Havre, and then, of course, Fields of Arle, which is also just a two-player game.
Big two-player game.
Big one.
Yeah.
I have a lot of faith in what this is going to be, obviously.
I've seen some images of the board. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a much smaller footprint.
It's a lot small. Yeah. It's a lot smaller, and it plays in about like 20 to 40 minutes. They said.
Yeah, there's 12 rounds or 8 rounds within the game. You're going to start with 4 possible actions, with each new round adding a new action that players can use. There's a board in the center that has all the original 4 actions, and when you take one of the actions, you're pulling it to your side. You physically take the tile, so you're no longer taking your dwarves and placing them on that location. You're just moving the tiles in a pattern.
I see.
Actions.
Whatever's left out there for you to pull, you can.
But. And you're going to be digging tunnels just like you do in Caverna, building up walls, building your caverns, building buildings, getting resources, collecting resources, using those resources to build things. You love two-player games.
I do. I'm a big fan, and I love to see. I mean, it seems like there's been this sort of trend, with Duel last year and some of the stuff Uwe's done in the past. I love to see great two-player implementations of these classic games that we all love.
He's great at it too.
Yeah, he's super.
Yeah, this is. I mean, Caverna can take like 3 hours to play.
Well, so you know what? Even the big version of Caverna is a great two-player game, in my opinion.
The difficulty comes in trying to make sure you distill the main core feeling of that game down. When you have a game like Castles of Burgundy and they made it to a card game, it almost made it larger than what it needed to be.
It had as much of the footprint.
As much of a footprint as the original game. Yeah. So if they can distill down that feeling of Caverna into a 30, 45-minute experience and not explode the table with components, it's fantastic.
He did a great job with Agricola bringing that to 2 players.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, that is our top 15. If you guys are at Origins, please stop by. All 4 of us will be there.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll get some
Wednesday
games
till
in.
Sunday. We'll play something, go out to dinner, maybe eat. And if you guys
we'll probably eat. Yeah. What's it, North Market? What is the place?
North Market.
North Market's fan. If you have not been to Origins, or if you haven't, you've not been to North Market, you've got to go to North Market for sure.
It's fantastic, yeah. If you guys have any questions about any of the games that we talked about, make them in the comments below. We will answer them for you. Subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Ryan, for joining us.
Yeah, pleasure.
And we'll catch you guys at Origins.
Bye-bye.